to be here, ladies and gentlemen. I have an amazing panel. This was insightful and a great introduction, and clearly a trend, that the topic of white label, a tripod, some call it. There are mega trends at heart, indeed. Consumer products are all the rage. Maybe the brands wanna go into that direction as well. These are the topics we'll be talking. We'll also be diving deeper into the talent topics, but indeed dive deeper into the whole topic of indeed white label and franchise white label operators per se. This is the framework for this afternoon session. We have a bit of time, so I will go through the round and leave each of my esteemed panelists to introduce themselves and definitely also elaborate to some extent what is their value proposition and maybe their take to where is the market from indeed a franchisor perspective. And we have Bani here really taking on the white label, the true white label, regional white label position. That's the framework. I encourage everyone already before at any stage, ask any questions. We want to make this very interactive. Panos, starting with you, maybe a quick introduction on Wyndham yourself. What's your take?
I will not deep dive yet.
No.
The lights are indeed very bright
They
in our eyes. So my name is Panos, heading Türkiye, Middle East and Africa for Wyndham Hotels and Resorts. Very quickly, some numbers. They are all big numbers. 9,200 hotels, 25 brands, 95 countries, 880,000 rooms. In the region here in Middle East Africa, 72 operational hotels, and in Turkey, 121. And I will stop here.
Thank you. Amith from Intercontinental, very pleased to have you. What's your take at this stage?
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone's enjoying the FHS. So my name is Amith, Khanna. I head the franchise division for IHG across India, Middle East, Africa, which includes Middle East, Africa, and Southwest Asia. So operating around 55 hotels at the moment, another 40 in the pipeline. So I represent IHG, and we're one of the largest franchisor in the world, with over 80% of our business globally as franchise in the franchise operating model. You asked for two things, right? One was around what's the company value proposition and in terms of market. So in terms of company value proposition, I would actually aim two things. One is around delivering great branded guest experience. And the second thing I would talk about is how do we drive profit for our owners. Middle East is a huge demand opportunity for us, and we see the market being very buoyant. Over 150 operating hotels and over 100 hotels in the pipeline. So it's great to be part of this panel, and as you were saying earlier, the first topic was about discussion here. We'll perhaps do a bit more deep dive into certain topics, and really looking forward for a great conversation.
Indeed, very large franchising companies, franchisors, maybe closing off from the franchisor front, so to speak. Adil, you represent Louvre, and of course an interesting backing with your Chinese owner and a large brand. Maybe a couple of words from yourself?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adil. I'm leading development for Louvre Hotels Group in our region. So as Panos started, few numbers, 2,000 hotels globally across 70 countries. In Middle East, so far, we have 54 hotels with a nice split between the franchise and management, almost 50-50, which shows how market is nicely growing and evolving. On the point about the Xinjiang International acquiring us, obviously there will be a deeper details that I would like to share on the way we have changed and shifted our strategy, the way we roll out our brands later on during the panel.
Thank you, Adil. Bani, we go back a long time. You know the franchise world very well. You've been on that side. Now you're running Aleph in the region. Please, over to you. And then maybe as a segue into our first topic, sort of like enlighten us with sort of how the tripod really works and what are the key value drivers, right?
Thank you, Marco, and good to be here. The organization that I represent and manage, Aleph Hospitality, was set up 9 years ago, and we were the first I would say, properly set up, fully fledged white label management company. Many of the people I met today and yesterday in the conference said you were there at the right time, at the right moment, right conditions, and now, you know, when 9 years ago no one was talking about franchising other than Wyndham, now everyone wants to do franchising. And so our objective really when we set up the company was to provide hotel investors, owners with a different model, an alternative model, to help them generate higher profits, address their needs as well when it comes to control and other relationship-based subjects. And I have to say that we succeeded. We are today the largest white label management company in the region, number of hotels, number of rooms, but you know, we are far from the thousands, and our intention and aim is not to have thousands of hotels. We want to remain, and this is our added value, is to remain a human-sized organization, specifically to be able to properly service our hotel investors and owners in a focused and hands-on way as much as possible.
Thank you. Before we gonna be deep diving into a couple of topics, where do you see that, we call it a tripod, right? Just for everyone to be aligned.
Yeah.
Owners that need a third-party white label management company, that would be you. We heard before some do it themselves, they have their own operating capabilities, and then you add a franchise. Where do you see that demand for your offering, Bani, most? And then of course I would want to hear from a franchise perspective as well.
So for everyone's benefit, how does the relationship work? And maybe to try and answer your first question. The relationship is actually relatively easy and very common, not only in the hotel industry, but in the food and beverage industry. And I always make a reference to the F&B area because it's very easy for people to relate to that. So whether it's McDonald's or Starbucks, these are all franchised brands and operated by someone locally. In the hotel industry, it's exactly the same. Everywhere else in the world, whether it's IHG brands, Wyndham brands, Golden Tulip, Louvre, Marriott, etc. So the brand is actually franchising, giving the systems certain know-hows when it comes to distribution, marketing, sales. And on a day-to-day, you have a local partner. That's what you have, a local partner whose responsibility is to make the hotel operate on a daily basis. So recruitment, training, part of the sales and marketing, revenue management, and delivery of the guest services and respect of the brand standards. So it is a tripartite relationship where the brand is signing a franchise agreement with the hotel investor, and a hotel operator was signing, such as Aleph Hospitality, was signing a hotel management agreement with the investor. There is a correlation between the franchise and the management agreement in the sense that we sign an acknowledgement letter, or each company calls it a different way, but basically we're telling the brand we are going to respect your brand standards, and if I don't respect your brand standards, you have the right to kick me out. Yep. And we're telling the owner we're going to respect these brand standards. If you're not happy or the brand is not happy, we're also out. So it's a triple win situation in reality. This relationship.
And what's the key driver? Why would an owner now not go for a classical HMA? Have everything from one source, so to speak. Right?
Three main reasons, and these are the three pillars of our model. One is the financial aspect. Depending on which study you believe and which consultants, there are many out there, you can find them on the internet, they go from 10 to 15% higher GOPs or NOPs. And we managed to do this not because we are better, it's just a completely different way of operating. We work for the owners and we are much more hands-on. We deal with local suppliers, we negotiate, our salary scales sometimes, not always, but sometimes are different. The centralized service charges, we manage them in a way that suits the specific needs of this property. It's not one size fits all. So on the one is the financial with higher profitability. Two, the commercial term and the agreement itself, a much more flexible relationship when it comes to the hotel management agreement. Most of the time it's slightly shorter terms, easier exit, much more balanced relationship. And the third pillar is the day-to-day interaction. So I always tell our hotel owners, you know, and the prospects that we essentially become your internal hotel division team. So whenever you want, you just pick up the phone, call the decision maker basically of this company and tell him, you know, I don't like this, I don't like that, I think we should do this like that. And there will be an immediate reaction, an immediate action on the spot in your hotel, which will impact directly, hopefully, the performance of your property. So these are the three key pillars.
Now, that needs the third party, the franchisors. How Amith, is your business model and your capabilities, how do you support the owners and the white label? How has the franchising model adapted? How is it adapting to these new needs from an IHG perspective? And then I would definitely also want to hear from Panos, who are going in a quite specific direction there as well.
So the fundamental question is, why would somebody want to franchise, right? So it's global support network, integrated distribution, whether it's a loyalty program, it's brand scale and reputation, and the list goes on. Now, for the model to work, and I agree with my panelist, Bani, it has to be a custom fit, right? So whether it's and we have three operating models. One is an owner-operator model. One is working closely with a third-party management company or hospitality management companies. And third is a franchise plus, where we would provide a support from a manager state for a period of 2 to 3 years for the hotel to be established and set. And we've opened 400 such hotels in Greater China. So different markets, different needs, and different presence through. But at the end of the day, it's all about when a client walks into a hotel, he doesn't care it's manager franchise. So how are we delivering the culture? How are we ensuring that we are able to sweat the brand, sweat the system, ensure that we're able to get the enterprise contribution to its highest level? So the operating model is a vehicle towards what a success of an owner looks like, or from a matter of an employee, the culture that he or she is adapting to when they're joining an organization through. So we have adapted, and while we've seen a huge demand from independents now, as well as conversions, where we see a lot of owners wanting to attach themselves to the brand. But the successes, whether it's with Aleph, with UHM, with Valor, some large organizations that we're working with, market maturity is the key. As market starts moving in the right direction, we start seeing a lot of opportunity for owners to move from independent to one of the brand operators and start utilizing the brand scale, reputation, the loyalty program, and all the other benefits that the brands bring in, which can then drive better efficiencies and also scale their current operations, and as well as bringing in revenues coming forward. So it helps not just operators like ourselves, but also owners as a win-win situation.
Clear. Panos, Wyndham has always been one of the masters in the franchise, certainly in Americas, in Europe as well. You're, to some extent, even going the other direction here in the region, which is an interesting development. Could you elaborate on that?
So, yes, the vast majority of our operational hotels are under franchise contract. And in the Middle East, we can say that there is a notable exception. With, again, it's not a 50-50, it's roughly 1 out of 6 hotels are under a management contract. And it's purely derivative of responding to market needs. Now, in terms of contract types or services that we can provide, we provide franchise contracts, we provide management contracts. A term that often you hear the last years is manchise. So you sign a contract which is basically signed as a management contract, and you have already pre-negotiated, ideally, the conversion into a franchise. And that forms, the franchise contract forms an appendix, if you want, to the management contract. And in the selective cases, we have done actually the opposite. There is no name to it. I can call it frontman. So basically, we signed the franchise contract. We were a little bit hesitant to allocate the franchise contract due to owner capabilities, and I'll dwell on that one in a minute. And then we said, okay, if things don't work and there is certain monitoring, let us have also the option to convert to flip into a management contract, but let's pre-discuss, lock the terms and the agreement at the time of negotiation, and have it ready in case things don't work out. So an owner, for example, who will tell you, I don't have a structure right now, but I've been very successful in all these industries. I want to build a team. We say, okay, we can hear you. We see what you have achieved, but let's keep the option open. If that doesn't happen, then we need to look into it. Like Bani mentioned, in our franchise contracts, we have something we call management consent letter. So this is where we map the management capabilities, either direct of the owner or the third-party management entity. And how do we decide whether we go on a franchise or a management? Well, first you have the internal strategy of the group, whether the specific location, the specific micro location, micro market, number of rooms, investment costs, execution, built-up area, all these things are relevant to the strategy, or whether, let's say, room size or the nature of the city, whether it's a tier 2 or tier 3, or secondary cities, whether it will make sense or not. Owner capabilities, whether they're in place already. Are they managing other assets? Are they doing well? So we would look at the financial performance.
Close scrutiny.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
We will do, no, that's for the owners actually. We'll look at the financial performance of the existing assets to basically, if you want to have a more structured approach into the type of contract that will be offered. Because as Amith mentioned, first of all, everything starts with technical services. They're exactly the same, irrespective of the model. The idea is to deliver the best possible product to the management company, irrespective of who that company is. But then we need to make sure that we screen well so that brand standards are respected, the brand promise is delivered, so that the property and the brand can be competitive within its marketplace.
Very clear. So much of the same, but still the commercial models, the operating model per se, is clearly adapting as a push, as a response from you, from consumer markets also, right? Adil, what you bring to the table, especially with the Xinjiang backing and so forth, is yes, your access, obviously, to the Chinese market, and maybe are there other elements that make Louvre stand out in that perspective?
Yeah, so we as Louvre, we are slightly different than the other brands because we are not entirely asset-light company.
Yep.
So we own 25% of our assets, mostly in Europe, and acquisition by Xinjiang International, what it brought to us is some shifts. For instance, it's a real estate developer mindset. So the way we now grow, we are doing rollouts of the brands with 500 properties, 100 properties, depending on one or another market. For instance, in China, we are rolling out now 500 companies. And while we are offloading our assets, we're to the point of the franchise, we're reinvesting them in our distribution system, in brand loyalty program, in order to bring to the owners a bigger advantage of being associated with us. And now, as mentioned, the best way to grow is a franchise. Franchise is the business model that allows you to quickly expand your footprint. And when we speak about the franchise, it's effectively a system. And the beauty of a system, it's in its consistency. So we don't do bespoke agreements, we roll out our brands. And to the point of what access does this acquisition by Xinjiang International bring to us, one of them is, for example, Chinese-only OTA, which is called We Travel. So effectively now, obviously due to COVID, this slowed down quite a bit, but it's picking up again. It allows us to access fully the outbound Chinese travels to our properties across the region globally.
Clear. Bani, there's a mix, right? And he mentioned the keyword asset heavy. How much of a topic is that for you in partnering up and really also driving further growth for your group? Is your strategy going to continue being absolutely asset light, or are you looking into going into the assets as well to drive? We've heard before from there was Action hotels on as an integrated, more of a developer approach, right?
Yeah. Now we will continue being asset light. We have, however, in the past considered some leases, so leasing hotels. Yep. We will. Unfortunately, it wasn't successful, but so we still don't have any leased hotels. But it's not something that we would completely discount. We're open to leasing if it's bite size for us as an organization, but that's to the extent that we would go. We won't own the real estate. No.
Very clear. I want to come back to that notion of consumer brands. We're in the midst of a generational change, right? Millennials, yes, still a very dominant segment, the boomers too, but it's sort of the passé. The next is Gen Z, Gen Alphas, our kids that are coming in. How are you staying relevant with your brands? How are you investing into the products to then ultimately support the white label and the owner to drive bottom line? How are you looking at that from an IHG perspective?
So at IHG we have 19 distinctive brands across 5 key categories. So luxury, lifestyle, premium, essential, and exclusive partners. Now we spend, so it's the breadth and depth of our brands which gives an opportunity for a guest to choose any of the hotels that they want to stay for business or leisure, but also owners when they're choosing a brand. So whether it's luxury lifestyle right up till the mainstream brand. We are investing in our brands because we want to be relevant. Also, like you just mentioned, the different types of segments actually determines the future and success of our brands through. So if you're not able to drive footfall into our hotels, if you're not able to build loyalty, if you're not able to drive profits, we will be irrelevant. So Intercontinental as a brand, we reimagined, we did a lot of work about 3 years ago, which was all around design element, food and beverage strategy, looking at inspiring, incredible on a brand culture. Vignette as a brand, we would have just heard some of the announcements that we made. It started with Vignette the 8, the first of hotel in the Middle East. And because of the success that we had, we could see the number of Vignette hotels that were coming after that. So we signed the tallest hotel in the world last week, the largest Vignette in the world. And it's great that it's all coming in within this region. And this came in from the Owners Association. So Vignette as a brand came in that there was something that was missing for us from a collection perspective, but also an opportunity for us to lead that through. And if we wouldn't have invested in the brand, these opportunities wouldn't have come in. And in less than 2 years, we have 40 operating hotels and another 30 in the pipeline. And also, we've just announced August of 2023, Garner as a brand, which is around mid-scale conversion brands through. So an opportunity across various segments, but also being ahead of the curve, because when you do study on how the market trends are, you make yourself relevant, and also ensuring that we have the right operating model for driving success in future.
Thank you. How's Wyndham thinking about that?
So from a brand perspective, there has been a major shift, and that relates to design, if you want, and evolution of the brands to reflect, latest trends. So you've seen that lifestyle, for example, 10 years back was like very limited number of brands, less recognition. Most of the brands were traditional. Today, all the groups, if we go with our traditional brands, most owners will find them boring, if you want, uninspiring. And lifestyle brands will be much more interesting because they can be more edgy in the design. So what we've done is, even for the traditional brands, call it Ramada, let's say, we've done like design guidelines refresh, so interior refresh of, and basically what we are trying to do is basically relaunch the brands and try to improve. But the biggest trend, if you see with most of the international groups, is basically the introduction of lifestyle brands and development of lifestyle brands to respond to the latest trends. Talent acquisition was a little bit touched in the previous panel, is very, very important. If you see now
I will touch on that, absolutely.
So I can...
No, please.
So one interesting trend is that if you go from X to Y to Z to, let's say, Alpha, which is the latest, you will find that the Alphas, which are extremely younger nowadays, are very quick in their decisions, very fast in the options and the way they make decisions. So ultimately, the service also needs to follow the solutions that are available, the AI that's available at the hotel. All these are learnings that need to be implemented in the service factor, if you want, of the hotels. So this is something that's been taken into consideration, but at this point of time, what you see most is basically design evolution and basically reflecting, changing the designs of the hotels and mostly proliferation of lifestyle brands.
Very clear.
I would add to that, sorry, no, I just want to add to that, all this is very valid. One major element for young generation or upcoming is the technology. And how do you reach to them, and how do they find you, how do they book with you, how do they interact with you, or you interact with them once they're on property. That's the big thing that, we also love and like to see with some brands do it better or are doing it better than others, but that's what we rely on as well, because that's that's your channel to communicate with your younger generation.
And on that, of course, you know, the big topic of indeed technological, not only at the property level innovation, no, but it's also in the distribution and so forth. Oyo is
Absolutely,
essentially a tech company, right? That must have an impact. How are you looking at Oyo? Some of the segments you cover are to some extent head on, right, with an Oyo.
Actually, I'm one of that youngest generation.
There you go.
Thank you.
Sorry. But actually, as everyone else said, lifestyle and technology-driven, this is the current trend which we are witnessing in the market. Another thing which is also very important to note is having a conversion-friendly brands. So, for instance, in Saudi Arabia, which is the biggest market today in terms of the news and the pipeline in the world, municipalities are being extremely aggressive by coming and taking out the license for the hotel operations for the products that historically been perceived as inferior. So with our brand, for instance, Kiryat, we come as Louvre Hotels Group with our partners with the capital, who come, they basically revamp the asset, bring it back to life. And then obviously the technology implementation, the design implementation that is just necessary today to cater the demands of the transient travelers are being implemented.
Still at the value proposition, does that model and the franchise more specifically really work for resorts? I think it's tried and tested in sort of the business-driven, more city proposition. Here in the region, we do have already a lot of resorts. Is it an applicable model, or is that one of the limitations of franchise?
Well, let's take the example, if you want, extreme example of all-inclusive hotel,
Yep.
which is over-allotted. Allotments have a release period, and at the end of the day, you're closing 100% every day at a low rate, and you provide breakfast, lunch, dinner, activities, etc. Can a brand really bring difference? Well, the answer is yes, because if I am a consumer, I would trust much more XYZ international brand than an locally branded hotel. Of course, everybody today's world looks at the reviews and tries to dig into, reviews related to family, reviews related to the month that the consumer is actually planning to go, and all the other things. But generally speaking, the average consumer recognizes brands, trusts brands more than unbranded. And this is where the presence of a brand, while a certain, let's say, tour operator contract is negotiated, can actually allow the hotel owner, or brand owner, or third-party management company to achieve a higher negotiated rate for the two series that's being negotiated. So that's one, if you want, of the benefits.
I mean, do you have anything to add? And Elsa, I would want to hear your thoughts, Bani.
I don't know, why would there be a limitation?
I'm asking.
Listen, a hotel is just another real estate asset class, whether it's a business, corporate hotel, whether it's a resort, a beach resort, ski resort, it doesn't. Again, we go back to the fundamentals.
Yes.
First of all, the model of franchising and having a third-party operator doesn't work for everyone, but it's more, for me, it's more related to who the owner is and what are the owner's objectives, rather than the actual asset and the location and the size. When we started as Aleph Hospitality 9 years ago, they were saying, "Oh, we will only franchise, limited service, maybe mid-scale." Look at us now. We're managing luxury resorts. We're upper upscale brands. Look at what happened in Dubai. Kempinski franchised. So the market has changed. So it depends who the owner is, not what the hotel is, because the fundamental is the owner wants more control. He wants higher profitability, hopefully, if the operator is doing his job properly, and he wants more flexibility for his contract. That's all. So.
I wanted to add on something that Bani mentioned relating to real estate. So one of the other benefits is the disposal of the assets. So imagine that an owner that has an all-inclusive resort, or resort, if you want, that wants eventually to sell it. The selling price and the EBITDA multiples are very much correlated to the performance of the past year. So if any brand can drive higher performance, ultimately disposal value is much higher, so the benefit return for the owner much higher, just as a parenthesis, if you want.
On the same, I mean, maybe we have a response to that, but an additional question of how far are you willing to go to actually franchise in the luxury segment, or where would you stop of really keeping the control within IHG, right?
Marco, to be honest, I thought you were going to ask me that as the first question, because this was a question we had in media last week. Would you franchise luxury lifestyle? We've just been fortunate that I have some great news to share in terms of the number of signings that we have had. And to be honest, whether it's manage or franchise, it's the brand delivery and the brand proposition. But to Bani's point and to Panos' point, as market maturity we're seeing, owners are not distinguishing between the whether it's a luxury lifestyle or PES. But the model has to work. It's really important that the owners understand if they're running it themselves, they need to have that capability, that experience and expertise through. So we are signing luxury lifestyle, a lot of them, but we do a franchise evaluation before we're bringing in the brands. So there is really important for us to deliver that brand promise for every single customer and guest that is coming through. And just adding on technology, which was a very interesting on how do we ensure that technology is established and set for success. We keep investing in marketing and technology are two key things that is really important. As IHG, we've invested over $500 million on something called IHG Concerto, which is one point for all our IHG revenue systems, reservation, and owner on a flick of an iPad can actually see performance on a live data. They don't need to wait for someone giving a monthly business review, because they have live information on how they're comparing themselves against competitors. And that's the pulse on the nerve that they need to keep to ensure consistency and how performance has been through. So we are investing in brands, but also a lot to do with technology that is relevant for tomorrow.
Very clear. Adil, how's Louvre thinking about that?
On resorts, I think why we're particularly calling out as a separate asset class, because I believe that majority of them are luxury products. Hence, we're specifically focusing on the benefits of a franchise to the luxury resorts. So there is one layer that also is very important to look at is such thing as burning points. So when the customers who are getting their points on the urban 3-4-star hotel properties, great properties, and then they go and stay and burn those points in the luxury resort under a franchise, it's a little bit of a downplay for the owner, because now every single brand, every single operator has their own way of reimbursement that some brands have according to the average daily rate, etc., the way they reimburse. Having just separately the loyalty program for that your particular luxury brand or the brands as the case might be is the way to move forward. And that's, for example, we as Louvre have done with our newly launched luxury brand, Tempting Places Collection. So Tempting Places Collection has nothing to do with the Jinjiang International and us sister company loyalty programs. It's purely with the Global Hotel Association platform today, which helps certainly to mitigate those risks for the owner.
Very clear. I want to touch on, indeed, people, right? We're in a people's business, a people industry. People make the experience. People deliver the service. People are a key topic, certainly in emerging markets such as the Kingdom. We talk with our clients, actually most of the time now going into activation on will there be ample, enough qualified, motivated people, talent available. Bani, how are you now in a tripod situation, right? Where typically the larger brands, and then I would want to hear your side to the story as well. You have a very clear talent acquisition, development, and retention strategy when it's within your realm, but now the franchisor is no longer responsible of the people. So it's down to you and the owner. How are you addressing career path, attraction, all of these key topics in attracting talent into what is already a difficult industry?
First of all, I've been in the region for now almost 20 years, and since I think I've attended the first conference here in Dubai, and this subject of people saying, "Oh, this is the upcoming challenge," and every conference I've attended in Europe, in the US, in Africa, everyone talks about the same thing. Listen, so many hotels have opened in the last, 50 years, and we always find people. So there's plenty of talent available. It's not always very easy, but there's always plenty of talent, plenty of people willing to work. Many economies don't have, they have a high unemployment rate, so there's always plenty of talent to recruit. You just need to find the right pockets, and these pockets change. Sometimes it's India, sometimes it's Philippines, sometimes it's Africa, so sometimes it's Eastern Europe. So they
But
it
how
changes.
much do you work with the brands on that, right?
So, but and
If
I'm
at all.
getting to that. The beauty of the model is for us when we're how do we attract these people? So they can remain. When you think of it, if you come and join Aleph Hospitality today, you can be working as a GM of an Intercontinental. Tomorrow, you're gonna run a Wyndham. After a year, you're gonna run Marriott. So while staying with the same organization, that's one. Two, on the training, we are actually, first of all, obliged by the brand standards to ensure that our team members follow the brand trainings, okay, and they are enrolled. We are measured as a management company as well. We have KPIs, not only to enroll loyalty members, but we also have KPIs to enroll our team members in the brand trainings. So, and on top of that, we have our own, whether it's the leadership programs, customer-related training, anything that you can imagine. We have a fully fledged training department, and we follow the progress of our employees. We even have an intranet, online training platform for our staff. So it's actually it's complementary. They're getting double dipping in terms of training. It's amazing.
Clear. What are you, the larger groups, how are you responding to that different environment, right?
So we all have the extraness, let's say. So there is pre-opening trainings that take place, like for example, general manager certifications, trainings that relate to the different departments and teams, and then there is thousands of trainings in the extranet for the staff members, whether to the owner, for the owner under a franchise contract, or in the availability of the third-party management company to utilize, cross-train departments and move people around, etc., etc. So these platforms are there. The issue with the franchise in general is, as we always say, it's there, the services are there, the door is open, but you have to walk in.
Yeah.
This is what we tell the owner, everything is there, but you
like
know,
a
you cannot
toolbox, but you
cannot pull people in, so you can do your visits, you can do your business review meetings, look at the ratios, look at your scorecards, highlight the issues, the potential, the opportunities if you want, but then you need the other side to engage. And this is, for example, where structure owners or owners with a third-party management company under a franchise contract makes the overall profitability for the asset and all the tripod, as you say, higher.
Amen.
We work slightly different here because we work through our owners association, so that's meeting twice a year, and it's about the employee value proposition, which is really crucial and critical in delivering the culture, because culture, to your point earlier, is the core of everything. And ADR is a word that I always thought was average daily rate, but it's attraction, development, retention, right? So, and if you start looking at the key three elements, how do you attract talent? So we have some exceptional people tools on what's a GM success profile, and it's in depth as to almost 60,000 odd trainings where you would actually help them develop and retain. And one common thing that came with all the owners representatives was, how do we retain talent rather than losing talent? Not just to other industries, but also people that would never want to work in hospitality ever. So how do you create a culture where you would want people to thrive? And I think that's really crucial, because when you do a success planning or succession planning of any individual, whether it's a steward joining or a general manager joining at the hotel, everybody wants to succeed with an organization. So if you can show them the path, I think that's really crucial and critical. And I think for us, what's really worked is with a clear partnership with our owners, our team members that would want to accelerate and fast track themselves within the organization, not just be limited to a city, but it's a global hospitality company, over 100 countries, with over 1 million rooms and another 350,000 to open. So it's the growth opportunity that makes them stay back with the large organization.
Thank you. I mean, our time is yellow. We're not red yet. We have a minute. Adil, any thoughts from your end on a key topic here?
We're actually quite similar as the other brands with the extranet trainings, etc. from the pre-opening stage. Whether you are the employee of the Louvre Hotels Group, just like myself, I need to do those trainings, and whether you work for Aleph Hospitality, let's say, The only thing that we have done recently quite different is for Campanile specifically. We have created a school where we urge our general managers to go because the brand guidelines are a bit strict. It requires 0.3 ratio of the full-time employees to the key count in order to ensure that IRRs that the brand promises. But except of that, everything else is pretty similar to others.
Now it's red, but maybe we have a minute maybe for any questions. I'm Swiss too, but I may actually miss it. There's one.
Hi, this might be a very novice question, so please excuse me. This is for all the franchisors, so I'm sure you're franchising both soft and hard brands. So in terms of cost of franchise and royalty fee for a hard brand vis-a-vis a soft brand, what is the delta? Is it higher or lower, or is it more or less the same? Thank you.
We go a little bit lower with the soft brands.
I would say for us it's more depending on the market, size of the hotel, location, who you're working with. So I won't say it's higher or lower, it's an opportunity that's in front.
We keep it same because the system behind it is exactly the same, whether it's soft or hard brand.
Full disclosure, the gentleman is
Works for you.
associated with, so he's starting to negotiate. So that's
Good.
Is he working with you?
It's on
Bani, I
record.
helped you. I
It's on
helped you.
record.
I helped you a little bit.
That was
yeah.
a planted question from Aleph, I think.
Yes.
And I'm into it.
Well, thank you so much. Please join me in thanking the great panelists. Thank you.